the society and ourselves to integrate food into our lives. And that's kind of like one of the great questions, is that as we are trying to move towards that, and I truly believe that as we tackle that problem, that we'll be able to reduce one of the most preventable causes of death in our society, and also bring down a lot of other costs that come with that.
So I think we can all agree that access is a huge issue. Access to good food is a huge issue. I don't know if you could really make an argument for that being an issue that's debatable. I think one of the controversies in asserting that food is really important to our health is money. Which is more important, having money to spend on books, school supplies, roof over your head, or having money to spend on your kale that's going to go bad in 2 days versus your macaroni and cheese that's much cheaper and makes you feel better. And that's not only a controversy that occurs in every single household to some degree, it's also a controversy that occurs in any sort of political arena. Anybody who's making decisions as to the health of our society is going to always argue that it's better to spend our money elsewhere. I think everybody in this room can agree that prevention is the best method of keeping our community health to the highest degree that it could be. And I think it's up to us to convince the rest of the society that that it's worth spending extra money now to prevent healthcare problems that occur in the future as a result of eating chronic food.
So I think a huge controversy is that a lot of people don't believe that eating healthy food means that you won't get disease. And it's so hard to try to convince people and to try to convince patients of that fact. Americans want instant gratification. We want a cheap and easy fix. So as an example, let's just say we have a patient that has rheumatoid arthritis. That took a couple decades of bad eating to get the patient to the point where now they have a degenerative disease. And so it's going to take, a few months, if not a couple years, of eating healthy to reverse that disease. But it is possible. But how do you convince a patient that has had 20 years of bad habits that now they have to completely change their lifestyle and change everything and eat healthy food, and they won't see results for at least 4 to 5 months? That's so hard to do, and that's such a huge controversy, is getting people to realize that the food they put in their bodies makes a difference, and that you can reverse disease by eating a healthy diet when you have a disease. So I think that that's a huge controversy, but as doctors, we have to keep on enforcing that and making patients believe that that is real, and that that's just our job to do that.
So I think that the other panelists have done a really eloquent job of addressing the economic and political and social components that can be controversies around food. I want to talk a little bit about what I think is a very central controversy, which is how we just answer the question in the first place: what is health and how do we get there? I would venture a guess that if we were to poll everybody in this room about their feelings regarding gluten and nightshade vegetables and dairy and meat and eggs and any number of other sort of hot button nutrition issues, we would find a lot of variation, right? And we're going to have patients that are going to be seeing many of us at the same time, right? Getting different messages from different perspectives. And I think there's a feeling and a pressure, to echo something that Colin said actually in the first question, that people aren't all the same, right? And the idea to have one way, there's only one way people should eat, right? I think is a huge problem that we find ourselves falling into. And it does a really major disservice to patient-centered care, where we suddenly become police officers and moral enforcers around people's relationship to food. And we're playing into language about guilty pleasures and cheating and all of this kind of negative language around food and health, when really the thing that we should be talking about is meeting patients where they're at, right? If you've had 20 years of bad food habits, we're not going to get you to go on a 100% elimination diet with no meat, no dairy, no sweets tomorrow. It's not going to happen, right? So let's set ourselves up for success. Meet patients where they're at and talk about what health looks like for each individual person that we see. Thanks.
Any last commentary on controversy?
Yeah, I just want to say that you brought up a great point, trying to meet patients where they're at. But I think the main thing is that patients can eat whatever they want. They just have to have the right ingredients. Like they can substitute healthy things for the foods that they love, and that really can help patients make that transition to a healthy, nutrient-dense diet.
Yeah, and I would say that a piece of advice like that fits right into meeting patients where they're at, definitely. The idea that, so you're going to have a hamburger every day, like Anahit said earlier, let's figure out how we can make that hamburger a little better, right? And so I think it really does work in tandem with those two ideas together.
Thanks.
All right, everyone's kind of squirming around in their seats, so let's go ahead and stand up and just shake it out. If you want to stretch your arms overhead. Take a couple breaths. We're over halfway, so we just have 2 more questions. So when you're ready, go ahead and take a seat. And take a seat. All right, we're going to continue. So if you could give your attention up front. Okay, so perceivably there is a healthcare crisis occurring, some of which would refer to as a nutrition crisis. In response to this, what can our society do so that nutrition becomes a greater part of our healthcare system and our educational system? Kyle, you're on.
Okay, perfect. So I think Colin hit something at home that we all kind of deal with, and that's finances. And with the previous question about it being a controversy. And so one of the controversies, or one of the things that we deal with as a society is like, how do we deal with this, especially within our education or healthcare systems? And as we know, within there's a statistic that's out there that we spend about 150 billion with a B to 210 billion dollars just in with obesity health costs, and that's not to add into the rest of the healthcare. And again, that's something that's preventable. And I truly believe that education is a wonderful tool. That as we educate our children, as we educate the society about things, that things begin to change, things begin to happen. And it has to begin with an open dialogue. We have to begin to talk about some of the healthcare risks that we're currently facing with. A lot of times we hear all the time that we need to find a cure for cancer, we need to find a cure for AIDS and all these different things. It's my daughter back there, like cheering me on. But one of the things is that, these preventable diseases that we see occurring around us every day, 70% of America is either overweight or obese. And what we need to begin is to start within the elementary school, like teach kids how to cook food that's nutritious and tasty, things that are just going to change our lives. And not only that, like offer classes that's also going to be beneficial to the parents, because you might have a kid who knows how to cook something, but their parents aren't probably going to let them go home and like start pulling out the knives and everything else and go to town, right? And so I think creating incentives for parents that are able to come into these classes, learn about nutrition and learn about cooking and putting in proper nutrition within their diets will not only benefit their lives, but also our society, our economical and political processes that which we're involved in on a day-to-day basis.
Thank you.
So I think as a society, the best thing that we can do is really pretty easy, is to just accept that everyone has different dietary needs. I hate it when I hear somebody say, I'm gluten-free, and somebody else roll their eyes because they don't believe in it or whatever it is. It makes it so much harder to cater for you then. I think once we get to the point where everybody realizes that everyone has their own dietary needs that they've figured out on their own and with the help of their healthcare team, that we'll get to a point where you can come to a party and there's a whole bunch of different foods available and not just one dietary style. And it's no big deal. It's not going to be a huge thing for somebody to have to Google, what do I cook for vegans or whatever. So I think we're definitely headed in the right direction, especially in this area. That's not right. Oh wait, no, I had a quote. It's by Jules Verne, who I've never